Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing something really exciting. It's a highly requested topic on this channel, and it is creating a custom Windows ISOs. Now, a custom Windows ISO might be useful in a variety of scenarios, whether you want to deploy a large number of systems and you don't want to go through the installation process individually for every one of them, clicking the same exact options like 500 times. Or you just want to create an image for yourself in case you ever reset your system, and then you can get up to speed very quickly. So for today's purposes, we're going to be using Windows 11 24H2 to experiment on, and we're going to be using a tool called NTLite. Now, for the sake of time, I've already pre-installed it and have it pulled up on my computer right here. But if you guys don't have it already, just go to NTLite official website and take a moment to download and install. And feel free to pause the video while you do so. And after you come back, we'll go ahead and get started. Once you have NTLite pulled up, the first thing you want to do is go to Add, Image, and click on whatever ISO that you got. And then click on the ISO, click New Edit, or you can just go ahead and right click. It will have the same thing. And then it will pop up a warning message saying that it has to be converted to a writable copy in order to make changes. Hit OK on that. And then after that's done, you can see the directory in which NTLite created, a cache directory, which contains your loaded Windows ISO. Now this ISO is writable, so we're going to be able to make changes on it. And we're going to be using Windows 11 Pro for this installation. Once you select the edition, just click load. Then it will load the ISO for you. Just give it some time. Might take a while. Alright, once it turns green, these menus will pop up in the left pane, and that's when you know it's done. And it will also say loaded. So now let's jump straight into the menus. The first tab, Updates, is where you can add Windows updates to your image. This feature is especially useful if you got older ISOs, say for from a couple generations ago, but you want all the latest Windows updates and Windows features in your custom ISO. And you can do that right here by clicking latest online updates and choosing whatever you want from the list. Now for today's purposes, we're not going to inject any Windows updates into our custom ISO because Windows updates can always be done later in the OS. So we're just going to hit X and head on to the next menu. Now this page, as indicated by the label to the left, is primarily concerned with drivers. So here you can add either individual driver files or directory containing drivers. For today's purposes, however, we're not going to add anything because this ISO is going to be used in VMware, and VMware drivers are typically installed via their own CD that you can just insert when you click Install VMware Tools. But if you do want to inject drivers, just click Add, go to Add either files or directories. Files come in the form of INF files, driver files, and directories can either be dependencies or whole directories containing INFs. Move on to the next, it's registry files. Same thing with drivers, you can add registry files ending in reg. So .reg files you can add using the file option, and the dependencies or the required contents or the folders containing the files you can select using select directory. Alright, so post setup page is a page that's very useful, or that I personally find very useful. Here you can add files, some installers you want to use, and some apps that you want to appear in the final install OS. As for these two options over here, before logon and after logon, if you want your apps to be available for you when you log on to the computer, choose before logon. Otherwise, after logon is going to do exactly what it says. Install all your apps one after another after you actually log in, so they won't be available right away. So in my case, I want all my apps to be preloaded into the OS before I actually head into the desktop. So I'm gonna click on File and choose all the installation packages I need and specify some parameters for them. Now here is where you want to search up for each of your programs that you want to install, the silent install parameters for that specific program, because it might differ from program to program, and you want to make sure that you give the correct parameters for it to install correctly. So for mine, I'm installing Google Chrome, OBS, and Steam. It's gonna be silent install for Chrome and /s for both OBS and Steam. Again, although patterns may exist in the commands used, there is no one-size-fits-all or one single line of command that will trigger the silent installs of all programs. So just be sure what commands your software uses to make sure they install successfully. Moving on, aside from adding installers, single files, you can also include directories as you could with registries and drivers. And also, you can issue individual commands that will be run in CMD before the installation, or if you choose to do that, you can click after login and the commands will be run after login. But since I don't want to run any commands, or I have no commands to run, let's remove that component and head on to the next menu. Now when we click this, NTLite is going to warn us that removing certain features or apps might bork our final custom ISO. So yeah, general rule of thumbs, just proceed with caution and research. Make sure you know what you are selecting before you actually select or deselect anything on this and the following several pages. Now for the sake of time, there are a ton of options over here and you can basically deselect or select everything and anything you want. I'm not going to dive into every single option because we'll be here for hours and even days. So here on the screen now are some of the choices or some of the boxes that are checked / unchecked. And again, I just want to reiterate, just make sure you know what you are selecting or deselecting before you actually commit to those changes. So again, we're not going to linger too much on this. Most of these are just going to be left as default, and we're going to proceed on to the next page. Now, these couple of menus, schedule tasks as well as features, settings, services, and extra services, will be kind of the same thing as components. If you are looking to do in-depth Windows customization, these menus are perhaps your best friend. And also they are your best friends, or should I say enemies, in the sense that they will meaningfully break critical Windows features and even just straight up break your Windows image if you are not careful with whatever options you decide to check or uncheck. So do be sure what options you are changing to your Windows image before committing to those changes. And once again, we're not going to linger too much on these pages, and we're just going to speed through them and head on to unattended, one of the most useful or one of the most commonly used pages in NTLite. This page deals with all the things that happen during the Windows installation process, similar to what Rufus does. For those of you that know Rufus, here you can bypass things such as logging into Microsoft accounts, agreeing to ELA, setting up time and language, connecting to the internet, and more. Now, you might notice that all these options are currently grayed out. So we need to go to the upper left-hand corner and select Enable to ungray those options, and now we can start modifying them. Over here for the out-of-box experience, you can choose between going through the out-of-box experience and going straight to the desktop through what's known as audit mode. I'm just gonna leave as default and go through the out-of-box experience, but you can choose auto mode if you want. As for Windows localization, I'm not gonna bother with that too much, since time and language and all that good stuff can be set up later in the page. Here for the show option, you have the option to set the time zone if you want. And we're just gonna set it to, let's see. Let's go with UTC. It's whatever. And down here in OEM information, if you expand the drop down, here you can set the logo, manufacturer, model name, all that good stuff. And let's just exit out of that because we got nothing to input. Alright, and let's see for out-of-box experience, we're of course gonna skip the ELA, right? So turn that to true, and we're gonna skip the local account setup. Although do note that if you skip this, you will have to add a local account within NTLite, or else you'll be left with no account at all, which will be a bad time. So you just click up here, add local account, and we're gonna add an admin local account with auto logon enabled. So group, of course, administrators, and we're gonna give a name of test. Alright. And after you click OK, NTLite will set the parameters automatically within the page, as you can see right here. And of course, since we have a local account already enabled, we are gonna disable the online Microsoft account requirement. And we are also gonna disable internet setup, skip privacy questions, and bypass the out-of-box experience, a set of pages where you have to go through once Windows boots up before we are setting up the desktop page. Here you also have the option to set up network locations such as home or work or public. Next, we're going to want to choose our language. Down here for both the Windows localization and the setup UI language for Windows PE. And also while we are in Windows PE, it also gives an option to skip ELA, so we're going to do that. And those are all the settings that I'm going to change for now. And again, feel free to take a look down the page and change whatever you want to. This page is generally safer to mess around with, but still make sure you know what you are changing to avoid any surprises. Once you are done with that, it's time to head on to our last page and actually apply our changes. Now this is the page where you actually generate a new ISO or make changes to a current ISO and save it as a new image. So in saving mode, you can choose to save the image and trim additions, and stop before saving the image. Now for today's purposes, I'm going to use save the image and trim additions. And we're going to remove all the unnecessary additions except Windows PE. Windows PE is a pre-boot environment in which you have, for example, if you have multiple operating systems installed on this machine, after the Windows Boot Manager loads, it will show a blue screen, a typically blue screen with a couple options of operating systems for you to boot up. That's Windows PE. So I'm not going to remove that. But everything else, aside from Windows 11 Pro, which is the currently loaded operating system. And for image format, the recommended format is the standard one, WIM. If you are really space constrained, you could use ESD, but it's read only, so it has to be uncompressed and copied if you want to write to it later down the line, and it's not really that convenient. So unless you are really space constrained, just use WIM. Alright, and for options, we can click to create an ISO, and it will pop up a menu like this. And we can click to save our ISO, create a label for our ISO, and this will basically tell NTLite we want a new ISO created. Here we can reapply tasks across editions, but since I've already unselected all the editions except my current one, we're not going to need this. And over here you can see a list of all the tasks you've configured for this process. When you are ready to go and all things look good, you can click process and it will pop up a menu asking you to disable Windows Defender to make the whole process quicker, because with Windows Defender real-time scanning and stuff, it might slow down the process. So if you want to disable it, just click yes. If you don't want to, it's fine. Windows Defender will open and just click off real-time protection, sorry. Alright, Windows security is going crazy, but it's fine. We're going to click yes. And as for the ISO creation process, we are done once we arrive at this page. Just let NTLite do its thing and sit back and relax. Alright, now it's done, and we can head into VMware to see what NTLite has actually created. Now let's power it up and see how the installer goes. Press the key to boot, the same old thing as a regular Windows 11 install. Alright, and now we're straight into selecting a disk. You can notice it skipped all of the ELA, the language, the keyboard options, all of that. And because we've configured NTLite to handle all the rest of the setup for us, after we click next, it should take us straight into our desktop. All we have to do is wait. Alright, we're in the system. You can see that NTLite created a local administrator account for us named test, exactly with the name that we gave it during the creation of the ISO. And over here on the desktop, well, with the exception of Edge, which comes with every standard Windows 11 install, we've got all our apps over here: Google Chrome, OBS, and Steam. And they've installed silently before I log in to the desktop, which is exactly what we specified. And now the last thing to do is just to install our VMware tools to the VM. And there you have it. We've created a custom Windows ISO that bypasses all but the disk selection part of setup, installs all the applications we tell it to, and is otherwise, well, just a fully functional copy of Windows. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please remember to give a like and get subscribed to get notified upon future uploads. But that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.